The transfer window shut a couple of days ago. I decided not to make this video yesterday just to give myself a little bit of time to gather my thoughts on the transfer window and just sort of consolidate everything. And yeah, we'll be discussing Bristol City's deadline day and the transfer window as a whole in this video. We'll be talking about the ins, the outs, sort of net positives, net negatives. Has the squad ultimately got stronger from last season? And well, can Bristol City now go and show that on the pitch? How is that going to translate? And we'll be talking about certain things that didn't happen as well. Let's talk about deadline day first, because I think that's an apt place to start, because that was just a couple of days ago. And it's felt like these past few days, ever since the post-match interview Gerhard Struber did against Hull for BBC, since then till deadline day has felt like a significant period of time for Bristol City. It's felt like a very important period of time for Bristol City, because it's very clear that Struber made it very clear after the Derby game that he didn't feel like the strikers after Emil Rees were adequate enough to go and step up and emulate that, and the drop off was too much. And that's what we interpreted from it anyway. And the logical conclusion from that was, well, we'd be looking to bring a striker in, and that's what Bristol City ultimately tried to do. Didn't happen, but we'll talk all about that. And it felt like we needed a left side defender in, and well, we got that in Neto Borges. So let's start with deadline day. Nothing happened for Bristol City in terms of incomings. A little bit happened in terms of outgoings. I think 3 outgoings. Adam Murphy goes out on loan to Swindon. So does Jamie Knight-Labelle. Both join Swindon in League Two. Murphy needs game time. Jamie Knight-Labelle has proven himself to be a very good League Two player with Crewe. He's relatively consistent in a side that sort of fell off dramatically with Crewe near the top of the league, and then real sort of tanked and went into mid-table. And then Sam Bell went out on loan as well. And this is important because he went out on loan to Wycombe, which I think is an okay move for him. Not sure that style of play would resonate perfectly well with what Sam Bell wants, but hopefully I'm proven wrong. Hopefully he gets loads of goals. But I think it felt significant because Sam Bell's obviously one of our, I think it was 5 options we had after Emil Rees. So we're now left with 4. Left with Rees, Alamilu, Sinclair Armstrong, Harry Cornick, and if you want to count Ephraim Yeboah in there, you can if you want. So it felt significant because it felt like any striker movement in was going to be done with someone going out. Now, what I mentioned was it can't just be anyone. It's, I think, got to be one of those Valley or Sinks. And when that didn't look like it was materialising, I think it was going to be so much more difficult for Bristol to get someone in with that time left. So what I'm trying to say is I don't think Sam Bell's loan move was ever going to be sort of in question. If someone had come in, Wycombe did. I just don't think it was going to be ever in question with, relating that to someone coming in. I just don't think there's a replacement necessary for Sam Bell. I don't think we need one. Anyway, wake up. Jacob Brown is not happening, and we'd heard rumours of this yet, like a few days ago or in the days leading up, where medical failed and stuff like that. That wasn't happening. That was obviously Bristol's number one number one target in the striker's position. Zach Viner looked like he was going to stay, and Sky Sports, I think, said that even a bid of 5 million wouldn't have done it for Bristol City to budge. And good, absolutely good. Wrexham were interested. Sky Sports mentioned Birmingham as well, but Wrexham was the obvious one that was interested, and they got Dom Heim at the end of the window, so they've got a replacement themselves, but clearly they want Zach Viner. We've stayed strong, and now the next priority for Viner is get a new contract to him and pretty much, offer very competitive wages. And look, we might not be able to offer what Wrexham has to offer, but this guy's been a part, 35 games for 3 years running, 35 games or more, 3 games running, 46 games last year. This guy's been a consistent part of our team for 3 years. He started well this season. He looks like he's a relatively good fit for Struber. He's got to get a new contract to him. At points on deadline day, it looked like Sinclair Armstrong might go out on loan. Now that, I think, would have probably meant more of a push for a striker, but that again didn't materialise. A loads of sort of in the know links on Twitter and stuff like that. Exeter, Port Vale, Preston, ultimately didn't look like it happened. And then there was a long sort of dull period. Obviously the loans went out: Murphy, Knight-Labelle, Sam Bell. and we just didn't get anything. No striker links. We had murmurings of Connor Chaplin, didn't we? That was someone I would love to come to Bristol. That didn't happen. He went to Pompey on loan. And finally, just because deadline day is madness, we had George Earthy. Complete rumours. I think that shows probably the desperation where we were at. George Earthy was linked with a loan move back or something, and Norwich as well, conveniently enough. And yeah, we're really starving at that point for anything deadline day related. But yeah, that's it. So in terms of incomings as a whole, so deadline day, I'll summarise that. Pretty disappointing. I think we probably anticipated probably more sizable departures. I know we got 3 outs, yes. We probably, if we needed to bring someone in those forward positions, probably anticipated one of Fally or Sinks to go. And whether that be a loan or a permanent, and that would have probably meant a little bit of a harder push for someone to bring in. Obviously, we're still in the same position as we were in the strikers position as we were before the deadline day. And if Emil Rees, God, let's hope not, gets injured or suspended or anything, not available for whatever reason, drop off, as mentioned by Gerhard Struber himself, is staggering. Is sizable, is going to be detrimental to Bristol City, and we just don't want to be in that position. And here's hoping that Emil Rees can play loads and loads of games for Bristol City, play loads of, score loads of goals. But I don't know. Is there trust within the coaching staff and Struber that Fally or Sinks could make that step up? Could potentially be that good second choice deputy that could be brought into a game to try and change it. That is, I think, maybe something we're also looking at. Enough of deadline day. We'll talk about the transfer window as a whole. So, I think 5 new additions of Bristol City. Yuhiro Akawa was brought on a permanent, but we'll ignore that. Emil Rees on a free from Preston. Joe Lumley on a free from Southampton. Adam Randall for 700 grand from Plymouth. Radek Vitek on loan from Manchester United, and Neto Borges on loan from Middlesbrough. In terms of outgoings, and I think these are all the ones, Cal Naismith, Ayman Benrouge, Naki Wells, Marcus McGuane, Stefan Bajic, Adam Murphy, Jamie Bell, and Sam Bell. So I don't think, apart from Marcus McGuane, we've actually raised a hell of a lot of money there. No, I don't think we have in terms of transfer fees. So in terms of purely transfer fee wise, probably a net negative because of Randall, and I doubt we've received 700 grand or more from Huddersfield from Marcus McGuane. So we're probably at a bit of a negative. It's very, very minimal. The spending hasn't been a large amount, actually, compared to some of the other teams in the Championship, but we haven't lost Jason Knight, Scott Twine, Max Bird, Rob Dickey, Zach Viner, Cam Pring, Ross McCrory. We haven't lost any of those key star assets that Bristol City have, or the biggest assets that we have. Naki Wells and Marcus McGuane were 2 players that were Marcus McGuane in around the squad, and very good deputy to come into midfield. Naki Wells started loads of games for Bristol City last year, but apart from that, we've done well to replace Naki with Rees. And actually, I think we've probably got a little bit stronger, and we've taken a small step forward. But I think the frustration is a lot of the Championship has taken a larger step forward than Bristol City. And obviously, we've talked about the teams coming up from League One and stuff like that. Could we be overtaken and stuff like that? Look, we're not a bad team. We're actually a pretty good team for this level. And we've kept a lot, as I mentioned, we've kept a lot of the team that has been a part of this sort of setup for 3-4 years now. And again, this is another year where we're going into Zach Viner, Rob Dickey, Max O'Leary, Cam Pring, George Tanner, Ross McCrory, Jason Knight. These are players that have been here for a while. These are players that are not sort of completely new and refresh the squad. And I don't think it was ever going to be that this summer. And I don't think it was ever going to be wholesale changes. It was never going to be loads of key players out. If we were to get a lucrative offer for Jason Knight, it probably would have been a little bit more spending. And that would have been, probably a little bit more in centre midfield, probably a little bit more up top, adding bits. It was never going to be wholesale changes for Bristol City. And that's, I think, what we had to understand. And I was fine with that. But that obviously had to depend on what Struber wanted, and Struber clearly agreed with it. And I think we've done well in real sort of certain positions to get players in who, can start, but can also be very, very good deputies and very, very good depth for Bristol City. So like Neto Borges, for example, might not start every game, but he's a very good deputy to Campering, and he's a very good left centre backup, and can easily play there and start games for Bristol City. So this is I think this has been a summer of small progression and adding depth in certain areas, apart from probably good depth, quality depth in the striking position, and that's probably where we've slightly missed out on. But centre midfield looks really strong. Max Bird, Jason Knight, Adam Randall, Joe Williams. You've got 4 really, really good Championship centre midfielders in there. And you've got goalkeeping wise, where you've got Joe Lumley and Lewis Thomas, who are probably too lowest down the pecking order. And then you've got Max O'Leary, and Radek Vitek so far has shown that he's very capable at this level. So got some really good Championship keepers there. Centre back, we are stacked. And once Luke McNally's back from injury, we're going to be really, really, really good. Hopefully there, Viner, Dickey, Atkinson, Neto Borges can play there. You've got Hayden Roberts still at the football club. So you've got, might as well use him. You've got really good sort of players there who, as I mentioned, can step in and can play in those positions and be really good. So I'd actually argue in the centre back roles, maybe even the fullback roles, left fullback for sure, and even the midfield roles, we've got a little bit of an upgrade on depth and on players who can step in pretty quickly and pretty easily. So I'd say net positive transfer window. Actually, it's not a massive net positive. We're not talking about, again, bringing in 6 new starters who are going to automatically improve the team tenfold. We're talking about little things, and it was always going to be about the little things this summer. So again, I know there's been frustration about the spending, stuff like that, but you don't need to spend that much when you can get Adam Rand for £700. You can get Emil Rees on a free transfer. You can get Radek Vitek on loan, Neto Borges on loan. You don't need to, spend millions and millions and millions of pounds. And honestly, upgrading on this team in certain positions, like for example, up top, if you're gonna really upgrade on what we had last season, if we didn't bring in Emil Rees, for example, this is going to cost you millions of pounds. Emil Rees just popped up, free transfer. Yeah, okay, we're probably going to have to pay very, very good competitive wages, but probably better than spending another 3.5, 4 million on someone who's, brings a much bigger risk purely because of the transfer fee. So I think we've done well this transfer window, and bearing in, we've not just brought in, players who are not unknowns in the division. Randall, Rees, Lumley, and Borges have played lots of games at Championship level. And the Randall, really good age. Rees, relatively good age. Neto Borges, obviously, loan deal. And you've got the promise. Looks like a really good loan deal for Radek Vitek as well. So I think the recruitment in has actually been pretty good. And I think it's been improved the squad and improved the team as a whole. And that's a credit to the recruitment team. But obviously the big frustration is missing out on that striker and not being able to ship out one of Sinks, one of Fally, probably been the big frustration for Bristol City. But yeah, let me know thoughts on Bristol City's summer transfer window. I think it's been a pretty decent one, actually. And we look like a squad that's pretty ready to go, but it's just those striker positions which feels like a bit of a knife edge where if Rees goes, for whatever reason, we're in a bit of a sticky position because Rees does so many things so well, running in behind, goal scoring, being in the right place at the right time. Where Sinclair Armstrong and Fally Maulu just not there, and Struber himself has admitted to that. But yeah, thank you very much for watching this video. Let me know your thoughts on deadline day, transfer window, as a whole, in the comment section down below. I think, as I'll say it again, it's been a pretty decent one for City, and that's been a net positive. And the squad got a little bit better than last season, despite us losing, obviously quite a few players. So what, 5 in, 8 out, I think it is. Yeah, 8 out, 5 in. I think it's been pretty decent window from City. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below on the window, on deadline day. Like the video, subscribe, all of that good stuff, and I will catch you all later. Cheers.